And we're back here at Boom and Bust here with Josh Andrus. He is the Executive Director of Project Confederation, talking about the Alberta provincial election. Josh, Easterners tend not to understand, and I guess I'm generalizing here, but allow me to generalize, they tend not to understand that the grievances of Albertans are not just a shtick or a political, political thing. It's like a real thing. What do Easterners need to know about why these grievances are real and valid?
Well, it comes down to not just power structures, but also money. I mean, if you look at really any transfer program that is federally implemented, Alberta is paying more into that program. Saskatchewan as well now, where we're paying more in tax dollars than we're getting back in government services from the federal government. Most of that money goes to other parts of the province. A very key example, I would say, would be the Canadian pension plan.
Right.
It's not something that was talked about a huge amount during the campaign, but it's a program where Alberta contributes, because of our young, working class, wealthy population, contributes significantly more into pensions than we take out in benefits. What that does is it creates an imbalance. And this isn't just in pensions. I mean, there's an equalization program alone that takes $20+ billion a year out of our pockets. But if we were to take the money that we had in the Canadian pension plan from an Alberta perspective, you would see pension premiums in the rest of the country skyrocket. You would see liabilities in the pension fund become more of an issue. And so it's one of those things where that's just one example. I think you could probably list off a million of these other programs that essentially takes from the West to provide services in the East. If you do a flyover of Montreal, for example, you see a bunch of swimming pools. Albertans think, from our point of view, that we paid for that. So these aren't just small grievances. These are issues across the board. We're happy to be a part of a country that takes us seriously and listens to our concerns. But when we're seeing the money go out and then we're seeing federal policies coming in that are designed to shut down our primary industries, it does create a lot of frustration amongst the public. It does create a lot of anger and dissatisfaction. And it does strain, as Danielle said, the patience and goodwill of Albertans. And that's something that the rest of the country is, I think, starting to wake up to. Maybe not so much the Greater Toronto area, but I do know that Quebec is watching. I know that Saskatchewan's up in arms. I know Manitoba's doing some stuff. So it'll be very interesting to see how the next 4 years play out, with clashes between the Alberta government and the federal government almost guaranteed to happen.
Indeed. Let's talk about Project Confederation for a second, because your organization, in the past at least, has advocated for constitutional reform. What are you trying to accomplish with that?
Well, we think that we're a vast region, a vast country with unique regions. I'm not going to sit here and say that Quebec is not a unique culture. I do believe it is a unique culture. I believe Ontario has its own uniqueness to it. And Western Canada, just based on our cultural, we'll say, migration patterns, we are very much a entrepreneurial, get off my back government type of a people here, especially when you get further outside of the cities. When you get that kind of these we'll say discrepancies in culture, you need to have a government that respects regions as well. So one of the issues that we've talked about, and one of the areas that we want to see change, is to the way that the country is governed. Right now, 199 of the 338 seats in the House of Commons are based in Ontario and Quebec alone. Alberta only has 34. So we don't really have the ability to protect ourselves in the province of Alberta as a region within the country, which leads to these transfer programs to take money out. So one of the things that we're proposing is it's an old idea. It's pioneered largely by Preston Manning and the Reform Party of Canada. So shout out to Preston for this, but it's called the Triple E Senate. It's effectively what you want to do is you want an effective Senate. So it has effective powers. It's elected, which gives it legitimacy in the eyes of the people, because as of right now, the senators are appointed by the Prime Minister, which kind of doesn't really gel with us, as well as equal number of senators per province, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if we have some kind of a balance in Ottawa where the regions and provinces are respected as equals, you would almost be able to balance out some of the more domineering factions within the House of Commons, and it creates that regional balance. But I think in order to really strengthen national unity. I think we need to respect everybody as equals. And if we're not doing that, then it's going to lead to more tension, more frustration, and a stronger separatist wave in either Quebec or Alberta at some point.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point that we've been having on and off debates about constitutional reform for decades, but really on this front, not much has happened in terms of our governance. I guess we'll see what happens there. We are going to take a brief break with our guest, but we will be back, and certainly stay with us.